Good morning, everyone. Thank you. We'll get settled for our last class here together in this big room anyway. Just put your feet on the floor and take a nice deep breath. Hand on your heart and your belly if that helps. For some reason that just helps me to ground that way. And listen to these words, taken this poem from one of my favorite poets. She says, "You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of rain are moving across landscapes, over prairies and the deep trees, and the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination. The world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place, my place, your place in the family of things." It's called Wild Geese by my favorite poet, Mary Oliver. We all have a place. On Monday, Peyton asked you, what has BiSci been about for you? A beautiful point of reflection. And this afternoon, I want to acknowledge that we've all been in this together, right? We have faced challenges, all kinds of challenges, about 535 different people in this room with 535 different sets of challenges. I also want to acknowledge that we've all put in a lot of effort to make this semester in this class happen, as well as all of the other things. So challenges and efforts, we've all experienced some sort of disappointment, I'm sure, and some sort of enlightenment, learning something new, feeling something new, all of those things that lead to learning in lots of different ways. Just like Kaylee celebrated on Monday, how do we celebrate those successes and failures, and how do we really differentiate which is which? And so this meeting that we're in right now marks a really important point, an end to an adventure that we've been on for these 15 weeks together. This adventure has called forth considerable exertion from all of us in different ways. And so that's something that we need to honor, and that's important. And so why do I teach BiSci? It's because of the power and the possibility in this room. Power and possibility of each of you in this room. What do you see as power and possibility in this room? I'd like you to take a moment to quietly reflect and then talk to your neighbor. What do you see as power and possibility? What do you see as power and possibility? I would love to hear from a couple of folks. Excellent. Thank you.
I think there's a lot of power in realizing that you have a choice. Like before this class, I was very much of an is what it is type of guy, but now I realize that I have the option every day to do what I want and make the most of it.
Oh, how cool is that? Thank you. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of power and possibility in like the future in this room because everybody is going to be like taking over like the next generation. So there's a lot of power in the future that we hold.
Yeah, that's what I see too. That's part of it. And choice is a lot of how that I see that shaping up. Thank you both. Anyone else? Power and possibility. I think that awareness is key. I think that awareness is key in a lot of ways. So with knowledge comes responsibility. So where we've been, just a quick recap here, is that we were here, right? We are each part of the universe. That was part one of this course. We're each part of this earth, being birthed into earth as the stuff of the universe, the earth that feeds us and waters us and gives us shelter and all the things. Actually, every freaking thing we need, right, comes from earth. We challenged ourselves to see the world with new eyes, the eyes of wonder and humility and gratitude and connection, almost like that whole childlike spirit, rejuvenating that within ourselves and being able to go out and look at the stars and feel that amazement, and how much that the looking at things with those eyes of appreciation and gratitude and amazement, and how that can carry us each and every day, finding something beautiful, whether it's out in the world or whether it's in somebody else that we meet, or if it's in ourselves. We can find that beauty every day, every moment of every day. And so that's where we started. From there, we went to part two, where we, saw these images and don't look away. Like, this stuff is hard, and it's what our world is facing. And so thinking about what the future is going to bring, and yet those emotions letting us be fully human, right? If we let ourselves experience those emotions, then we're able to act as our full selves as we move forward. Because we have to. We have to act. That's what this is about, right? We need to act to bring this world together. Hope is going to carry us. Action is going to carry us. And that's what all of you are here. That's what brings me that idea that, the future is going to be pretty darn cool if you're all part of it. And then from there, we went to part three, where we focused on ideas of sustainability in our daily choices, how we choose our food and our transportation and our shelter. We focused on creativity and possibility and opportunity. I just want to say a little bit more. After Bianca and June Howe were here talking about creativity and freedom, I started that class by saying I think that creativity is going to be the key, one of the key things moving forward. Some of you in this room will have jobs that don't even exist yet, because that's what we're going to need. We're going to need some creativity to be able to get out of the place that we're in. We are inherently creative beings, and that environment and our culture needs our creativity right now. It's only when we can use our head and our heart and our intuition and bring those things together in harmony that we reach our full human potential. And that's where creativity comes from. It's when we allow ourselves to see and to be fully human. Because where we are right now, the only thing we have to do to be sure that we will leave a ruined world for our children and our grandchildren is to do exactly what we're doing right now. And gosh darn it, I want grandkids. And I want to be able to show them the things that I love. So what's going to happen for you, for us as humanity, when you leave this classroom? Are you going to go back to what you were doing before? Are you going to recycle and think that that's good enough? It's not. Recycling is good. Recycling is important, but it's not the answer. It's trivial in the state of where we are right now. I'm not saying stop doing it, but we have to add and consider other options, using less and using things from other people and sharing and community. It's good. We need to continue. So there's an article in the Week 15 about weavers, people who are bringing these ideas together, that are weaving communities together, the social fabric of what we're working toward and what we're working with. We're living in this time where excess has been the thing, right? For the last 60 or 70 years, excess and hyper-individualism. Everybody has to have a house, everybody has to have a car, everybody has to have a drill, and everybody has to have a screwdriver, and everybody has to... Hyper-individualism might sound silly, but why should I need a drill when my neighbor has one and she doesn't use it all day, every day? So why don't we share something like that? It's a matter of thinking outside of the box that we've been in for these years. There's a lot of emphasis right now on personal freedom and self-interest and self-expression, but that can all happen even when we're woven together, as we're appreciating each other and the resources that we have. And so the best way to be a weaver in our culture is to share what we've been doing in here and what you're learning in your small communities with other people. It's to be authentically you when you go out into the world, and then inspire other people to do the same thing. A quick scan of our news headlines says that we are in a bad place, right? The news headlines. But, you know, if you had picked up a newspaper in 1972 or in 1988, you would have seen the same thing. Because news, that's what it's about. It's spreading the bad stuff. Because we are inclined to look at, we're very curious about the bad stuff that's going on. So the good stuff doesn't really make the news that often. All of the things that are going right in the world. Turmoil always grabs the headlines over peace. So we have to search it out, right? We have to look for it. So here are 7 of the most encouraging trends happening in the United States right now. The middle class is shrinking, but that's because as a whole, Americans are getting richer. And so what does that mean? That means that we have more to share. That means that we have more to get out of that hyper-individualism and be able to help people and bring us all up together. That's the key. Extreme poverty rates are on steep decline throughout the world, and that's because we're doing that. We're bringing people up. We're bringing people together. That's a cool news fact. Far fewer people are dying in war. There is incredible turmoil right now happening in Ukraine, and people are dying. But it seems that is so radical right now, and it's absolutely horrendous, and my heart is absolutely broken over what's going on. But it's because it's unusual right now, right? War used to be much more common than it is now. America's incarceration rate is at the lowest level since 1995. As a whole, our society is healthier and moving up. These are facts that we just don't hear. Violent crime has dropped like a rock. We hear about the terrible things that have gone on, again, because that's what's in the news cycle. That's what people are drawn to for some reason. COVID-19 forced many of us to work from home, where we, as humans, are happier and more productive. That was a cool discovery. We're also making tremendous progress in the fight against malaria and AIDS and other diseases. There are amazing things happening in this world. We just need to be diligent in seeking out those loving actions and then connecting ourselves to them. The Surgeon General, the current Surgeon General of the United States, believes and speaks about the way that we are going to heal ourselves and our connections. The Surgeon General of the United States, a political figure, believes that love will overcome fear if we dive into real connection, real human nature, and we can overcome the challenges we face. This is incredibly powerful that we have a leader that believes in that. A dear friend of mine and past BiSci student, her name's Kara, a really beautiful human in the world. She says, while in the shower, a place I do most of my thinking, I was contemplating every problem in the world that I could think of, everything I just want to fix instantly to make the world a better place. It's a long list, and I am prone to worrying. It adds up, and the feeling of helplessness often overwhelms me. She continues, she was a TA for this class, she was a learning coordinator for this class. She says, I know a lot of you have felt that way at some point in time, especially this semester. BiSci opens our minds to think about the bigger picture, sometimes in challenging and uncomfortable ways. It can be debilitating to want to help so much and make huge changes when you feel so little. As we know, we are each just a blip on the timeline of the universe, but even though we are small beings and what we do alone won't change the world, I still believe there is beauty and power in making small impacts in our lives and the lives of others. It's been said as cliche before, but I think it's something it's worth believing in. If we all make a small impact, then perhaps there will be a bigger one together. But to do so, we must turn toward all beings and Earth, our home, with empathy and love and openness. And if you're skeptical, listen to these words from Unitarian minister Christine Fry.
This is titled The Great Turning, and if you feel inclined to, maybe close your eyes, because that helps me visualize the words too. You've asked me to tell you of the Great Turning, of how we saved the world from disaster. The answer is both simple and complex. We turned. For hundreds of years, we have turned away as life on earth grew more precarious. We turned away from the homeless men on the streets, the stench from the river, the children orphaned in Iraq, the mothers dying of AIDS in Africa. We turned away because that was what we had been taught, to turn away from our pain, from the hurt in another's eyes, from the drunken father, from the friend betrayed. Always we were told, in actions louder than words, to turn away, turn away. And so we became a lonely people, caught up in a world moving too quickly, too mindlessly toward its own demise. Until it seemed as if there was no safe space to turn, no place inside or out that did not remind us of fear or terror, despair and loss, anger and grief. Yet, on one of those days, someone did turn. Turn to face the pain, turn to face the stranger, Turn to look at the smoldering world and the hatred seething in too many eyes. Turn to face himself, herself. And then another turned, and another, and another. And as they wept, they took each other's hands, until whole groups of people were turning. Young and old, gay and straight, people of all colors, all nations, all religions. Turning not only to the pain and hurt, but to beauty, gratitude, and love. Turning to one another with forgiveness and a longing for peace in their hearts. At first, the turning made people dizzy, even silly. There were people standing to the side, gawking, criticizing, trying to knock the turners down. But the people turning kept getting up, kept helping one another to their feet. Their laughter and kindness brought others into the turning circle, until even the naysayers began to sway and smile. As the people turned, they began to spin, reweaving the web of life, mending the shocking tears, knitting it back together with colors of the earth, sewing on tiny mirrors so the beauty of each person, each creature, each plant, each life might be seen and respected. And as the people turned, as they spun like the earth through the universe, the web wrapped around them like a soft blanket, making it clear all were loved, nothing separate. As this love reached into every crack and crevice, the people began to wake and wonder, to celebrate together. And so the world will be saved, but only as long as you too, sweet one, remember to turn.
So our emotions help us to see that and to turn and to feel. Charles Darwin says that our emotions lead us to connection, which help our survival rate. And that's exactly where we are right now, right? We are actually concerned about our survival rate. It's exactly what we need, is to be able to connect to each other. And by doing that, by using our emotions. So some folks have wondered why this class is so much about the self and so much about the emotions. But that's exactly what we need to connect to ourselves, to our others, and to the natural world. With knowledge comes power and responsibility. So how are we going to turn? I'd like you to watch this video of these two beautiful women who have taken it upon themselves to help spread the message in their own way.
Sister of ice and snow, I'm coming to you from the land of my ancestors, from atolls, sunken volcanoes, undersea descent of sleeping giants.
Sister of ocean and sand, I welcome you to the land of my ancestors, to the land where they sacrificed their lives to make mine possible, to the land of survivors.
I'm coming to you from the land my ancestors chose, Ailangkainan, Marshall Islands, a country more sea than land.
I welcome you to Gardaghlinunaat, Greenland, the biggest island on Earth.
With me I bring these shells that I picked from the shores of Bikini Atoll and Brunette Dome.
In my hand I hold these rocks, picked from the shores of Nuuk, the foundation of the land I call my home.
With these shells I bring with me a story of long ago. Two sisters frozen in time on the island of Buyay. One magically turned to stone, the other who chose that life to be rooted by her sister's side. To this day, the two sisters can be seen by the edge of the reef, a lesson in permanence.
With these rocks I bring a story told countless times, a story about Sesuma Amna, mother of the sea, who lives in a cave at the bottom of the ocean. This is a story about the guardian of the sea. She sees the greed in our hearts, the disrespect in our eyes. Every whale, every stream, every iceberg are her children. When we disrespect them, she gives us what we deserve, a lesson in respect. Do we deserve the melting ice, the hungry polar bears coming to our islands, or the colossal icebergs hitting these waters with rage? From one island to another,
I ask for solutions. From one island to another,
I ask for your problems.
let me show you the tide, coming for us faster than we'd like to admit. Let me show you airports underwater, bulldozed reefs, blasted sands, and plans to build new atolls, forcing land from an ancient rising sea, forcing us to imagine turning ourselves to stone.
Can you see our glaciers grown the weight of the world's heat? I wait for you, here on the land of my ancestors, heart heavy with a continuous thirst for solutions. As I watch this land change while the world remains silent.
Sister of ice and snow, I come to you now, in grief.
Mourning landscapes that are always forced to change. First, through wars inflicted on us,
Then through nuclear waste dumped in our waters.
on our ice,
And now,
this. Sister of ocean and sand, I offer you these rocks, the foundation of my home. May the same unshakable foundation connect us, make us stronger than these colonizing monsters that still to this day devour our lives. The very same beasts that now decide who should live.
who should die? Sister of ice and snow, I offer you these shells and the story of the two sisters as testament, as declaration that despite what we are told, we will not leave. We will choose stone. We will choose to be rooted to this reef forever. From these islands,
We ask for solutions.
from these islands,
We ask, we demand that the world see beyond
ACs, SUVs, their pre-packaged convenience, their oil slick dreams.
beyond the belief that tomorrow will never happen, that this is merely an inconvenient truth.
Let me bring my home to yours.
Let's watch as Miami, New York, Shanghai, Amsterdam, London, Rio de Janeiro, and Osaka try to breathe underwater. You think you have decades before your home falls beneath tides?
We have years, we have months before you sacrifice us again, before you watch from your TV screens and computer screens to see if we will still be breathing while you do nothing.
My sister, I offer you these rocks as a reminder that our lives matter more than their power. That life in all form demands the same respect we all give to money.
That these issues will affect each and every one of us. None of us is immune.
And that each and every one of us has to decide if we will rise.
I love that they've chosen to use their beautiful and hard stories to create something that helps us to understand. They've used their creativity in what they know and their cultures to connect. It's a beautiful example, and there are so many ways to make that happen. So what are we going to do? For those of you asking, so what are we going to do? Here are a few ideas. For the state of the environment and climate change and the state of our culture, and maybe in your households or international politics, any area of your life. Face your grief, but have vision for the future. It's easy to lose our focus if we get focused so closely on what is happening that we can't see the possibilities. So we need to continue seeking, keep asking questions, see clearly where we want to go to get out of this, envision the future. We need to defend the truth. Distinguish between real science and pseudoscience. Don't give up on people that have views that are different than yours, but defend the truth. We need to see ourselves as citizens and not as consumers. So considering everything that you're taking in on a daily basis, what are you purchasing and what are you using and what are you throwing away? Reclaim your idea or create your idea of what is a good life. That power of choice every day is pretty cool and pretty important. Practicing responsible consumerism when you do need to consume things. As humans, we do. Everything on earth needs to consume. It's just a matter of how we choose to do it. Put your money where it matters, both in what you buy and also in how you invest. And then engage in politics. I'm not saying one side or the other, and in fact, maybe neither, but saying democracies are threatened right now by the climate crisis and lack of understanding around diversity, and it's time that we evolve to meet these challenges. If we completely lose what we've got going on right now, as far as political scene, then it's going to take a lot of time to get something else going, and we just don't have that kind of time. So we need to work within the system we have now, and that takes all of us. We have to work within this available time frame that we have. And so I want you to know this, though. Even at this late hour, we still have a choice about our future. And every action that we take from this moment forward counts. And we're capable of making these right choices about our own destiny. We are capable. We're not doomed to the future being flawed and devastating. We're not stuck in that. So when our children and our children's children ask, well, what did you do? Our answer just can't be, well, we did everything we could. No, it has to be more than that. It has to be, the only real answer is that we do everything that's necessary to move forward. It will be a story of great adventure, a story of against overwhelming odds, a magnificent story of weaving and turning and change. I want you to write down this quote. It is my favorite quote of the entire semester. It is the most important in my heart. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive and go do that. Because that's what the world needs, is people who have come alive. That's what this is about. I'd like to know if any of you have thoughts about this. How does this quote strike you? If you have a completely different view than mine, then that's cool too. It doesn't have to be your favorite quote. So take a minute and talk to your partner about this. What do you think? I'd love to hear from some folks.
I kind of don't think that it lines up with what was being said about doing what's necessary, and you know, and we can't just do everything that we can. We have to do what needs to be done, even if that's impossible. So I think that takes sacrifice. That takes doing things that don't that aren't fun, right? It takes everybody coming together and putting a little piece in to make the impossible happen.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, so first, this is the last time I'm going to share because I graduate this semester, so I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone for making this a good experience. On that note, in terms of this quote, I think part of the issue of not being able to come alive is that, like, whether it be the message of this course or the message that we're trying to send in general is falling on deaf ears. For example, like when people are sharing, you know, side conversations that I can hear as I'm talking or, you know, as you're talking, or people just not, you know, fully engaging. And that's whether or not, you know, that's up to the person individually. But maybe you're just not ready if you are that person or those people who are having those conversations and not actually allowing this to penetrate you.
Could also be that those side conversations are people that are wound up about the topic too. So it's hard to know what's happening in the side conversations, and that's a tricky balance. Just like the balance of figuring out, you know, how to do what's necessary and also be inspired to do the serious hard work. So we're here to take in different perspectives. I appreciate what you're saying, and certainly those things can might feel disrespectful, and the way that we express all of those things and let them out, yeah, it's a tricky balance. So thanks, Avery, yes.
I want to go off somebody who just spoke before.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
That person.
Yes. I think doing what makes me feel alive is fun, but doing what the world needs is what makes me feel alive. You know what I'm saying? It's really fun.
And sometimes
you know?
hard stuff is fun.
Yeah, it's hard. It's still hard. Doesn't mean it's easy. I think that's a good point. It's like it's hard to do these things, but they are so much more rewarding than all the other things. Mm-hmm. I think it's becoming alive doesn't mean having fun, or it doesn't mean being sad, or it doesn't mean being angry. It just means being on. And when you're helping others and helping the surroundings that I'm in, that's when I feel on. And it's a good time.
Thank you.
Okay, hi. So I actually found this video after you showed us the Yosemite Bear video, and it's an interview with David Grohl. He's in the Foo Fighters and Nirvana, and I was watching this interview, and he says that he asks himself every day, not what he should do today, but what he can do today. And then they said something else, and then their interviewer was like, "You are just so in love with being alive." And I think that's like who we need to be for ourselves and for each other.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Thank you. Cool. Yeah, go ahead.
This quote kind of confused me because it's basically like saying be selfish and like think about yourself. And I was confused because like there's a lot of people in this world that probably feel alive from like committing crimes and stuff and like doing bad things. Like there are those people. And that's not what the world needs. And so they're kind of like contradicting. So I think it's like you got to find the right balance of being selfish, but also like respecting the world.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Thank you, everyone.
And I also think that looking at why those crimes are happening, what's the underlying, like just like what we've learned, like what are the layers of, what's the economic pressure, or what is, what's really going on, what kind of disconnect is happening that those people can't, really find the respectful way to be alive in this world. So, yes.
Okay. I think if you ask yourself what the world needs, you're going to find yourself to be like really lost, because the world needs so much. It's such a broad question, but if you can narrow it down to what makes you come alive, in the sense of like, because I feel like it's easy to confuse like feeling alive with just something that brings you personal enjoyment. I feel like being alive isn't just like happiness. I think it's like struggling and like embracing that part. So I feel like if you narrow the scope down to that, you can manage the world's larger needs and issues a lot more. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people get lost in like being a cog in like the machine and just like following the crowd. So the world needs people who are willing to stray from that, even if it's not easy.
Thank you. All right, one more.
So I think the beauty within people is that we don't all connect the same way. So some of you may not connect to BiSci, but I'm sitting here as an angel, and this is my 3rd time taking the course. But also, like, there's beauty in not being connected in that way. So sometimes, like, I feel connected to water, and that's when I take the come alive part, is come alive, like, in your natural setting. That doesn't mean going on a shopping spree or doing something that's artificial and materialistic. Instead, you take it and you put it into, like, the world. So when you meet other people, and I don't like singing. I will sing, but I'm not good at it. So when I find someone who connects and feels alive with singing, that brings beauty to the world. Or when someone can dance, that's beauty. And I think just having conversations, it's beautiful within self. So some people may not connect with certain things, but that's what makes life life. And that's why you are drawn to other people, because opposites connect, but so do similars.
Thanks, Jackie. I appreciate all of your thoughts on that. Thank you. And I need to say thank you. Joel talked about gratitude on Monday. I'm a big fan of gratitude. So I need to express my gratitude to the learning coordinators for all that you do for making this class run smoothly. Our guest speakers that have come over the course of the semester. I need to thank each of the TAs for the beautiful job that you've done. I wouldn't do this work without you. And then I want to express my gratitude for each of you and the way that you have shown up here and been you. I hope that you've been able to be that. I hope that you've found connection. I'm always available for a talk, a chat, a coffee, whatever, if you have things that you want to talk about. And so I also want to thank Chris Yule, who created this class in this way, and I think that it's a really unique experience and think it's important. And so if you feel so inclined, I encourage you to reach out with gratitude to those who have meant something to you, whether here or someplace else. Spread that along. It's a way of weaving and turning and making connections. And so with that, I want to leave you with these 2 things. I might need to help you, or might need your help. I think this is going to play automatically.
May I suggest?
Oh, never mind. I got it. So what I'd like to end with is this. We must let go of the life we have planned so as to accept the one that is waiting for us, because we are the ones that we have been waiting for. There's not an iota of me that doubts Alice Walker. And so with this, I want to send you out into the world with the hope that we can do this together, that we can weave and turn and find beauty in every day. Make those connections. And so with that, I hope that you have a beautiful day. Have a good one.